Sula here from MistyHealthTops.com. Thanks for stopping by. In this video, I'm creating 6 Easter cards using a one-sheet wonder, which I will be displaying here, and I'm using just a locally available Easter themed paper pack that I don't think is available elsewhere. So anyways, here I have the instructions. This is from a website that I got this from, and I just created my own based on it. And so this is what you see here. And so I'm just following the instructions of this as I am cutting the different pieces. These are all, the measurements are all in inches. So there's a 2x3 piece, a 3x3 piece, then 3 1x1 inch pieces that I'm cutting right now. Then there are 2 pieces that are 2 1/4 by 1.5 in size. And I had to pay attention with the directionality of the paper. Even though the pattern is pretty large, it still kind of worked this way. You could still see that it resembles some sort of eggs there, the main shapes, and then obviously the figures that are in it. And then there are 4 pieces that are 1 by 1.5 inches in size, and then there's one last piece that is left over from all the pieces. So here I have now all the parts, and I have to decide which will actually go together, which I will put on one card. And then here are the card bases. So this is for an A2 card. I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's a 4.5 by 5.5 or 4 1/4 by 5.5, something like that. So it's an A2 size paper that I am scoring now to just put it in half. Actually, when I cut the papers, I had some leftover pieces and stuff, so they're not all the same A2 sizes. Some of them are smaller, but I like it that it just has different sizes there. Like this one is definitely not the full length of a 5.5 or 5 1/4, whatever it is. So some of them are just smaller. Just the way it happened with my cardstock, I felt, oh, there's enough left over that I could make a card that is just simply smaller. Then I have here I am starting to arrange, but then I decided it just looks too bland, so I decided to have some cardstock and then use that to mat all the pattern papers. So this one will go there, and then this is the last one, and here I scored it wrong, but again, because my cards are in all different sizes, most of them are the A2 size, but there are 2 or 3 cards that are not of that size, and so it didn't matter for me to cut off a bit of paper where I had actually scored it for some reason in the wrong place. So here I am having a little battle with this cardstock that I have obviously used for other projects already, but what was really challenging, it seemed like, even though I like the quality of this cardstock and it's pretty good cardstock, but it does not like my trimmer, and it's not because my trimmer is so dull, the blade is so dull. I think it has to do with the texture or the fibers of this cardstock. So what I will do is I just cut it out, and then I will just run a pair of scissors around the edges there to just clean up the edges. So here I have to really pay attention to how these need to be cut out so that I get the right size. And so I just made them 1/4 larger on each side. So 1/4 larger than was in the one sheet wonder, basically that preview there, and so that leaves like a 1/8 of a rim around each side from the paper. So I make it 1/4 larger than the original. So if it's a 1 by 1 little square, then I made it 1 1/4 by 1 1/4, and that then will result in a 1/8 of an inch kind of a border around each of the pattern papers. So this is what I'm working at now. All right, now I've cleaned up everything and now I'm ready to actually put everything together. So here are my card bases with the pattern papers already spread out, and now I'm just putting these mats. Basically, I'm matting all the papers with the correct shape there, and it's they're so different. It's easy. I didn't have to label anything. And then so again, there's a 1/8 of a boundary or rim all around each of these cards. So now I'm ready to just assemble these cards, and I decided not to put another extra background layer on the back, even though it might look pretty, but I don't want when the cards get too heavy and they're not good to put in an envelope or something, so they get too bulky, too heavy. That's why I also refrain from using ribbons too much, even though it looks pretty. So here I'm just starting to glue down the pieces on each of the cards, and I have already prepared my sentiments, although there will be a few cards where I will actually stamp the sentiment directly on the card base. So but some of them I just have labels for that I die cut, and then I just stamped used my stamps, making sure that the stamps size fits the label size. So here I'm just creating like a row of 3 little squares that go on one card. Then the next card I have two rectangles that one will go at the top and then one will go at the bottom, and there was still a little bit of the fuzziness left over on that piece of cardstock there. And here I have to decide, and I'm deciding to pull them apart and have the sentiment there in the center, and this one will be one where I will stamp directly onto the card base. And I was looking for which of the sentiments would fit right there, and so this one does work well. So before I start actually gluing down everything, I make sure that the stamping turned out well. I don't know why I do this, because most of my stamping turns out all right. But I guess I get nervous. I don't want to lose my nice pattern paper, so then I just make sure I stamp it on the blanks before to ensure that everything worked out well. So here I have some of my sentiments, but here I'm also deciding, do I want a labeled sentiment, or do I want to stamp directly onto the card? And so here I decide, okay, I will just go ahead and use one of these labels and just glue it onto the card base right there. So this is my second card done. Then comes the third card, which is a simple one, and that I find would work well to have a sentiment here. I'm still deciding where I want the sentiment, but I think it works just fine putting it there center onto the pattern paper there. And so once again, I'm starting by placing the pattern paper on top of that square mat, and then I glue it down, and then all I need to do here is add the sentiment, but I'm still trying to decide what I will do with the sentiment. So here I have these 4 little rectangles. I made sure that the way I arrange them on the card base is so that it actually follows the pattern on the paper, so that the patterns align with each other, so that you can actually see basically what the pattern was about. Because if I put them just randomly, that would make it more complicated. So here I am deciding to just do a little, align them there, top and bottom, and then add a little sentiment there in the center. Think that looks fine. So this is basically this card already done, and again I created the stamp first, die cutting the label, and then stamping onto it the sentiment there that I want to use. So is card number 3 done, or actually completely done. Then I have the next one, which is just a little rectangle. I'm not working with any ribbons, keeping it fairly simple. And then I have this one last bit of a sentiment that's left over there that I can use for this card, and adding more glue to it. And I am ready, and I decided not to put it in the middle or center it onto the page, but just put it a little off so that I had space for the sentiment there. And then I am deciding to finally put that sentiment onto this card. And then I have one more card left that I decided to just, it was the one that I had scored wrong, but I'm just deciding I will cut off that that part that was wrongly scored. That is just that extra there, and it still works just fine with the pattern paper and the mat. So that's just, it doesn't have to be exactly a certain card size, as long as it fits in an envelope. And I use an envelope, a punch board, to create my own envelope, so there's one of them will fit, and so I'm not concerned about that. Here I'm just checking which of the sentiments I've used already, and I will just then pick another sentiment that I might have not used so far. So I will stamp another Easter sentiment directly onto the card base there, and that would then be my final card done. That makes 6 cards, and I'm going to leave you with some more close-ups. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Consider subscribing, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.